Okay, I call this meeting to order. Roll call, sir.
Commissioner Mullins.
Aye.
Commissioner Gallagher.
Here.
Commissioner Wilkerson.
Present.
Quorum is present.
Okay, as you wish, please stand for the allegiance and I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Heavenly Father, we ask for your presence as we do the business of the county. Guide and direct our actions that we might be found well in your eyes. In Jesus' name we ask it, amen.
consent agenda is approval of our last meeting of July 28th and sales tax reports, and I'll discuss that later. Monthly reports of treasurer, auditor, recorder of deeds, and collector. Certificate of training for Jay Graff, our recorder. And appointment orders for Jacqueline Coleman, Family Treatment Court, and we have a new janitor, Tabitha Crater. Remove old computers from the asset list for the Road and Bridge Department. I have a motion.
Approve the consent agenda.
And I'm second.
And thank you, I vote two, and no table agenda items. Now we need permission to seek bids for road striping. Road and Bridge, please.
John Gross, Highway Administrator. Commission, we would like to give permission to solicit bids to pave approximately 12 miles of road. Beginning of the year, we
Wait,
had.
this is road striping, I think you have payment.
Striping first? Or?
Yeah, let's do striping first.
Okay. Well, we'd like to give permission to solicit bids to stripe approximately 15 miles of road this year. The way we do that, last year was our first year. We had done about 15 miles of road last year as well. We do a double yellow line, and that's usually about 30 cents per linear foot. So we budget about 25,000, so it gives us 16 miles of road.
Just, could you give us an idea of what the roads that you've, not
Roads.
necessarily the names, but I mean.
These are gonna be primary routes throughout the county that have been newly paved. We had a lot of positive feedback last year on our striping program. It's not that we're just going through striping every county road, but they are newly paved primary routes in the county.
Primary routes meaning high volume traffic.
High volume,
snow.
depending on if there's a school, adjacent to it. We do like to stripe those as well, just to provide that service for the county.
I'd like to talk to you in the future about some outside striping too.
And now we are restricted by width requirements, if the road does
Yeah,
not
and
meet
that's-
that width. And, like last year, we budgeted 25,000, this year's 25,000. Next year, the roads that we striped last year, we're gonna have to go back and maintain that. So that cost is gonna slowly increase over the next 5 years.
Well, I'll talk about it.
That's fine.
See what we do. Okay.
On the recommendation of the highway administrator, I move that we solicit bids for the purpose of road striping.
And I will second that.
Do I have any questions, comments? Okay, all in favor, aye? Aye, thank you. Go ahead and solicit those. Now, your overlay.
All right, we would also like permission to solicit bids for a road overlay. This is approximately 12 miles of road. We had awarded about 10 miles beginning of the year, and due to the COVID outbreak, we delayed that remainder of the road overlays of this part of the year, just to make sure that projected revenue was gonna come in and that we would have enough money to cover it. After speaking with the auditor's office, we are in good shape budgetarily, so we would like permission to solicit bids for road overlay.
Again, on the recommendation of the highway administrator, I move that we solicit bids for the purpose of overlay.
Second that.
Any questions, comments?
How many miles is that total that we're gonna do this year?
About 22, we
22.
budgeted 25.
You budget 25 out of how many roads?
How many roads or how many
Yeah,
miles are in
miles.
the county? About 400.
What's the price of oil done since the budget was turned in?
Steadily increased.
Steadily increased, okay.
Part of the problem too with not getting all the roads that we hope to get done is timing. It's gonna take 3 weeks for soliciting bids to do this, and then they've got 30 or 50 or so.
So we hope to do this in an expedited fashion. We're gonna open these, I believe it's September 1st is the next meeting.
I'm not sure offhand, but anyway, we're time constrained. We'll run out of good weather before we run
Right.
out of roads to use.
So when
Well, we will have a meeting next week.
we have to at least let it run 2 weeks. So that second week, we will open bids and award them that same day.
We have our public hearing
Okay, yeah.
for next week.
think I've got that correct on here, but I'll double check it. Okay.
Do you
Yes,
have
Charles.
locations? I do. They are going to be Old Bon Terre Road, Old Jackson and Rock Creek, Snowdale, and another portion of Hillsboro, and as well as Dogwood Lane.
So if you put new pavement on it, they're still old
Still
out
up.
there?
Yeah.
Well, it's only if you're coming from Deloge to Bon Terre, so Bon Terre Road.
Okay, let's go right ahead to the report. Do I have a motion?
I already did that in a second.
Okay, we got the second. Okay, any other questions, comments? You lost my track here. Okay, all in favor, aye? Aye, thank you. Now, we got an independent report by Daniel Jones and Associates. I took out the word draft here, but it wasn't on the agenda that way.
Louis Seibert, auditor. Gentlemen, certified public accountants Daniel Jones and Company performed and completed an independent audit for St. Francis County for the year ending 2019. The audit was conducted for the purpose of reviewing and all the financial statements along with internal controls and compliance. The examination began in February of this year and was to be issued in June of this year, but was delayed because the auditor's office and those of Daniel Jones went to a remote workplace situation to protect our employees. I appreciate the work performed by Daniel Jones and applaud the efforts of the county auditor's office, Bridget Smith, Emily Holman, Joan King, who was led by audit manager Amber Mongelet. When St. Francis County became a first-class county, an annual independent audit was mandated. First audit in 2014 revealed 11 financial statement findings, revealing no internal controls for written policies, lack of financial reporting, segregation of work duties, logbooks for county vehicles, unacceptable drug court purchases, travel reimbursements, incorrect timesheets, non-uniform bidding procedures, collector bank reconciliations, unacceptable mileage reimbursements, budget adjustments, and assets tracking. Things got better as there were only 5 findings in 2015, 3 in 2016, and 2 findings in 2017 and 18. Now, the report you're about to hear is an endorsement of why the auditor's office is so particular when we question and investigate purchases, invoices, and bids. To the office holders and department heads, this report verifies what the St. Francis County taxpayers expects in financial transparency. So it's my pleasure, of course, to introduce Commissioners Amber Mongelet, your County Audit Manager, who will present the results of our 2019 independent audit.
Amber Mongelet, Audit Manager.
You're smiling with this report.
I am.
Yeah.
As Louis did say, yes, we are required to have an independent audit done every year, and the main purpose of that is because of our the county's debt with their certificate of participations of the elder of that LJ Park requires our books to be reviewed annually. That's also a requirement if we expend more than $750,000 in a year of federal funds, which in 2019 that was not the case. However, upcoming for 2020, we will by far exceed that threshold. Usually someone from Daniel Jones comes and presents this. However, due to current circumstances, they decided to let us handle it.
Okay.
So I don't know if you've had a chance to review the financials. We did, and we were very pleased with the results. As for the year ended 12/31/19, there were 0 findings.
Now, wait a minute, back in 2014, we had 11 findings.
That is correct.
And now you're stating we have 0 findings, correct?
That is correct.
Thank
And
you.
the most consistent finding over those past few years, if you go back and look, as Louis stated, the majority of them were in regards to no documentation of risks of fraud or internal controls implemented to prevent that. And as Louis was saying, over the past few years, we've worked really hard with a lot of cooperation from other departments to get those documented, those risks assessed, and limit the county's liability for
Yeah.
the potential of fraud.
Thank you. Bless you guys.
It's not an easy job, but
Congratulations, because this is huge.
Thank you.
This is an accomplishment, and this is a.
We've been working on this for
Be
years.
proud of.
yes, thank you. So it would be our recommendation to approve this financial statement.
That may be tough.
For us
With the
to,
recommendation of the, Amber Modulator Auditor, I would move that we approve.
And I'd second motion.
Any questions or comments? It's a major step to go from, you know, an office tries to be efficient, so they have one person handling the incoming cash. That can't be done. You gotta have 2 or 3 people handling that, making sure that it's all handled properly and the same way and all that.
And
So that's all
unfortunately,
been corrected over time.
This isn't a one-time thing either. You know, we constantly have to reevaluate our processes, our controls due to change in environment and change in financial systems, all of that. So as new things arise, it causes a need to relook at everything. So
And
annually,
just think
we will
about
be
that
revisiting.
outside auditor's office sending us a letter saying we're doing perfectly. That's a tough one to sign.
It's very rare, I will say. So.
Okay. Any questions or comments at all? Okay, have a motion second, all in favor? Aye, thank you, Amber. Thank you, Louis.
Commissioners, now that you've approved it, we will post the actual, however many pages.
407, now it's 47, I think.
47 pages will be posted on the website.
Thank you.
It'll take a little bit of time, because we'll have to get management letters signed and all that, but I would say within a week we should have
Okay,
that.
IT, you got that. Okay, we got bids, assessor's office. Anyone here? Yeah, yeah.
I'm here. Mindy Wooldridge, Deputy Assessor. And we received bids from 2 companies for the mailing and processing of our assessment list, and we need to reject both of those bids.
Too high.
They weren't too high. There was information that they didn't provide us with that
Okay.
was in the bid specs.
Okay. So they didn't qualify. Okay.
On the recommendation of the Deputy Assessor, I move that we reject the personal property mailing list bid.
And I would second the motion.
Okay, any questions or comments? I will add that our bid process requires that they fulfill that full description of bids. And if they don't put something in there, then they really don't qualify for that. We also can't accept estimates, gotta be a bid or a quote.
Right.
Okay, any other questions? All in favor, aye? Aye, okay, we'll reject your bids. Now, you're gonna solicit proposals for this again.
Start it all over.
Okay, and, same specifications, same
Yes.
people, Why would
I
that-
will contact them and let them know that we're rebidding.
and why we reject it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I would move that we allow the Deputy Assessor to solicit proposals for personal property mailing.
I'd second the motion.
Any questions, comments? All in favor, aye? And that's our bailiff, we'll let him have that phone, that's no problem. Okay, thank you. Job title change for assessor's office, go ahead.
We request, we have 2 employees that have been with us for 5 years now that are deputy clerk ones.
Okay,
And we request to bump them up to deputy clerk 2s for 2021.
this is because of their seniority,
Yes.
bump up, and bump up. And, yeah, Corey, any comments on that?
No?
HR agrees with that requirement.
Okay.
So, we'll do that, and there'll be a slight pay change in that, I believe, is that correct?
There it is.
Okay,
Yeah, I think 75 cents for
okay,
each one of them.
per hour, okay.
And that's obviously built into your budget.
But we want to for 2021, so we need approval to,
Okay, this starts in January 1st.
right.
Okay,
On the recommendation for Deputy Assessor, I would move that we allow the pay increase for employees Jessica Beard and Lisa Pratt.
And I would second that motion.
and any questions, comments? I would add at this point that we are working on a proposal to go through all of our employees based on seniority only, and trying to figure out how some are underpaid, and we're not gonna cut anybody's pay if they happen to be above that level. but try to regulate the pay. There's been some people who've been neglected over there. So we're trying to do that. We'll get that in the budget request for next year and work that out. I know Corey and I have got to get together here before too long to get that ready. I've got some numbers put together. But, thank you, and, have we had the vote? Okay, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye, thank you.
Thank you.
Sheriff's Department Deputy Salary Committee report. Corey? And Prince.
And Friends, Corey Strom, HR and Friends. Okay, so we formed a committee several months ago because of some concerns that came, that I was not aware of regarding commissioned officers. So, the committee, myself, Prince, Amy Brennicky, Dave, Rich, Teresa, Louie, and Gay. I think, and I have a list here of, so one of the main things that we found out, there's a high turnover, their equipment's old. For example, they all have to provide their own handguns when they're hired on, lack of training. And just for example, this is what
Yeah.
officer has to pay, has to spend before they can even start the job. So it's anywhere between $700 to $1,000 that they're out of pocket before they even have to come to work their first day. So, also one of the main things is the pay scale. They only get raises at 1, 2, 3, 5-year, 10-year, and 15 years. So they don't get the yearly COLAs like all the other employees do. Their starting pay is $14.42 an hour.
Yeah. For a
the-
person that has to carry a gun on his job.
Right, yeah. So just for an example, the city of Farmington, their police officers get a $1,300 allowance each year for uniforms, boots, belts, things like that. Our officers only get either a choice of shirts and pants or boots once a year. And that comes from commissary money. So, we have a recommendation that we would like to present to the commission to help get us up to first-class status for our
Okay.
officers. So our recommendation is a one-time stipend for all commissioned officers of $1,000, and also to request bids so that we can get uniform service weapons for everybody. Because right now they all supply their own handguns, which are different models.
All different ammunition.
Mhm, right.
And that handgun, we don't have the bids in yet, it'd be several $100s.
Right, yeah.
Okay.
So, depending on what model they go with, it could be anywhere between $25,000 to $30,000 for the handguns,
For the group.
for the group, yeah.
Okay.
And we also want to supply them with their weapons, their belts,
That'll be necessary.
magazines, ammo, things like that.
Okay. Speed, do these get speed loaders or how are they revolvers?
Just magazine.
Magazines, okay.
Question for you, on these recommendations, would you like to accept recommendations individually if they have multiple recommendations? Set it in a packet, because like this recommendation, you would have to accept it, and then a request for them to go out for proposals.
Are you saying take a poll of the officers
No,
and see what?
I'm saying if they're making recommendations, and there's more than one recommendation, would you like to vote on whether you will take the recommendations as a whole or individual recommendations?
Well, I think we should look at possibly the individual, because the stipend, I wanna see the stipend get to them ASAP. They've been.
How many separate recommendations do you have?
Really just 3.
3 that will take actions?
Mhm.
Okay, well, why don't you do it separately, and this one, for example, if you make the motion and accept the recommendation, then you need to follow up for them to authorize them to go ahead and seek bids on it.
Okay, the $1,000 stipend, will that be taxable?
Yes.
That is taxable.
Just for commissioned officers,
Okay, and how many people is that?
roughly 60.
So you're talking $60,000 cost to the county,
Mhm.
plus some payroll costs besides that, taxes and different things. Okay, what about budget?
So this was gonna come out of the roof budget, but wasn't the roof?
The money we didn't spend on the
Right.
roof. Okay.
Mhm.
So the money is available in the sheriff's department
Yes.
in a different line item
Yes.
for that.
And Sheriff Dan is aware of, the recommendation. I believe he was told, that we were gonna make it, and he was agreeable at the time. He couldn't be here because he's in training.
Okay. Do I have a motion? Is that a recommendation to you?
Yes.
I would move that we, move towards the $1,000 stipend.
Hold on, once again. Your recommendations, if you act on them separately, is that all the recommendations?
That's his recommendation, the stipend only, right now.
Right now, stipend only?
Right.
All right.
That's-
I would move that we, move towards a $1,000 stipend for the, officers.
Commissioned officers.
Commissioned officers, sorry.
And I would second the motion.
Okay, how many, does the commissioned officers include the, jail employees?
Yes, as long as.
So all of those people do, what about the bailiffs?
Yes.
Okay. Now, we have some commissioned people that aren't employed by the county,
Correct.
so does it include them? You have city police officers out there somewhere that are commissioned, but they're not county employees, so.
Just county employees.
So that needs to be in the, resolution, or the,
The St. Francis County deputy that is a commissioned officer.
St.
Move
County,
towards
yeah.
for the $1,000 stipend.
county employees that are
Yes.
commissioned.
So you're,
Right.
so you'd like to amend the original motion? I'm not,
Yes.
if we're, somebody will question this, so that's
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah.
So you're offering an amendment to your motion, needs to be seconded to make it county.
Second the motion.
Would you second that? Vote on the amendment.
Okay.
First, vote on the amendment.
Is this just a one-time thing, or is this gonna be
One time.
every?
One time stipend?
Okay.
Okay. And, okay, I make a motion, we accept the amendment.
Yes, not call for the vote of the amendment.
Okay, and all in favor of the amendment? Aye. Aye.
Now, you can vote on the motion as amended.
Okay, and that amends the, anyway, the proposal, anyway, to county employees that are commissioned.
Correct.
Okay, because again, we have city employees that are all badge carrying people, but they're not county employees and they are commissioned. So we don't want, that possibility of being accepted. Okay, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Thank you. Now, resolution 2 you have.
So that includes the firearms, the service weapons, so that we can spend money and get everybody their own uniform. It would be county property, they would be issued whenever they're hired, they'd have to turn it in when they leave, but it's all uniform service weapons, same ammo, same handgun, same everything. And that includes the belt, the magazine, everything,
Gun holster.
holster.
Handcuffs.
Who chooses what weapon you use?
So, we have an individual with the department, Scott Miller, he is our armor currently, and he's been looking into different firearms and discussing it with the sheriff. He has chosen 3, I believe, at this moment, and they're still discussing which firearm it's gonna be.
So you've narrowed it down to 3?
Correct.
Okay.
Which still requires solicitation of bids for those firearms.
Correct.
And so of those 3, you would take the best bid, and then that chooses which firearm you go to.
That's correct.
Okay. And that's your recommendation to accept that? Okay.
And I move of the recommendation of the committee and as being presented today, that we pursue the purchase of the firearms through procuring or soliciting bids for the firearms, and approve that. This is one of the biggest expenses that these law enforcement officials or officers have to make before they can show up for their very first day of work. It would also help in uniformity across the ammunition, firearms, the armor, all that stuff.
Liability.
We experience, like most other people do at this particular time, really a lack of applicants because there's very few places you have that you need to spend $1,000 to get a job. I mean, that is.
And not a high paying job.
Right, and so, we certainly support that.
So the motion is accept the recommendation, and I have the requirements she said, so that these are full-time people and that.
That's right.
And then authorize the solicitation of bids for that purpose. Is that correct?
That's right.
And motion second? Okay, any questions, comments? Yes, please.
It was, excuse me, Corey.
No, go ahead.
It was the recommendation of the committee primarily because of the liability involved.
Yeah.
With the different firearms that the different officers have, we just felt it was paramount to the safety of the community that we do have something that is more uniform, as Jay said.
Yes,
I just wanted to make everybody aware that, I mean, whatever arm we carry, we qualify with that.
Yeah.
So we're backed up, you know,
yeah.
as far as being
Individually,
liability. because
you're
it's-
familiar with your weapon.
We qualify with that handgun.
Yeah, okay. And you'd have to requalify with whatever new.
Yeah, well, yeah, but we have to.
Okay. Now, again, I asked the standard question, budget.
Again,
Does this come out of the same
Yes.
fund?
So, and this is where Louis helped us with that. We were going to use the money that wasn't used for the roof. And there was some there, I think, $106,000
There's available funds.
It's filtering down, but, yeah, okay. Okay, any more questions or comments? All in favor, aye?
And real quick
Aye.
though, that includes all everything on that list.
Right.
Right,
Oh,
okay.
that's everything on this?
that's,
Yes.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's approximately 1,000.
The belt, everything that you see printed.
The stipend and the equipment is really one-time cost.
Right, right.
That's not exactly.
Well,
all
that-
three,
the
but I mean,
uniforms will be
rather
different.
than annual allocations for this, this will take care of getting us started.
Right, and this isn't a solution right now. I mean, we're gonna keep up with these meetings, we have other ideas that, concerns that we wanna change and things like that, so it's not a long-term solution.
Okay, you had item 3.
The third item,
It was really just the weapons and.
Oh, so these are items 2 and
Yes.
3 then? That's
2 and
okay.
3 weapons and materials.
Okay,
You got it all.
so we've taken care of all of your needs, right?
Yes.
Thank you. I appreciate you guys, your committees. I know you spent a lot of time on this and worked it out. And we appreciate you. Thank you.
We want to mention, I know she mentioned names, that we had deputies present and office holders on the committee, and several members that are here that come every week, just citizens at large in different parts of the county that participated in that committee. And I know you're planning on doing long-term for the long-term betterment of what do we do for the sheriff's deputies and how we retain them and how we compensate them things. But we appreciate all the citizens that came to all the meetings too, that are being paid to do so.
And just to comment, the reason, I guess, that the deputy salary has gotten so low, it's just there was no request for the budget over the years. It just got pushed back for some reason.
Well, and again,
We just didn't have it to act on.
this will certainly improve our chances for attracting and retaining. We've had instances where people have been hired and they get a better paying job before they start, and we don't even get them. I mean, we're not in a good position for that.
Okay.
Really.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate you. Amended phone policy, IT.
Dwayne Looney, IT supervisor. At this time, I've been a committee for the phone policy to go through and review over a couple different items. Basically, county-owned phones or stipends and everything like that. And at this time, that is being amended and sent off to be legally reviewed. So at this point, it's being changed. Corey had more details on exactly what's being changed on that. But it is being amended and changed to allow for county to pay for priority devices for 24-hour service, as well as different items depending on the cost of the phone plan. So that's all being amended at this time.
We're kind of limiting those, I'll call it county phones, to the people that are on call.
People that are on call, and there's just basic phones with internet and data plans.
Yeah.
And then I believe, it says amend the policy, if they do not want that, then a stipend may be provided to that
Yeah.
person for their phones based on the service provided, not the phones themselves.
Yeah.
So that's all gonna be amended and changed within the next couple of weeks.
If a person doesn't want to carry 2 phones, then basically we would pay him, he wouldn't get the phone, the second phone, but he would get the monthly pay that we would have paid for service.
For service only, yes.
To help pay on their phone bill.
That's correct.
Okay, and we're gonna limit the number of people, and now there are people on there that,
Yeah, it's gonna be limited back to people who are on 24-hour service who are, not required, but are pretty much on call 24/7, that get calls on the weekend.
Okay.
That have to be able to access their information to proceed with their work.
Okay, so this is a notice that that's in process. We're waiting for the legal review, and then we'll present that some later date.
Correct.
Now, let's go,
So,
yes.
so if you had the legal review, would you like it on next week's calendar?
If we have it.
Yeah.
If they have it, yes.
But, our legal staff's running late for
Right,
for
like,
other reasons.
I believe, like I said, Corey, I believe is working on the actual amended on that,
Okay.
so.
Now, item 2 would be purchase of subscription for each IT pads at $80 per month total.
Correct.
This is for the pads that we've already purchased, or approved to purchase for the IT people, so they can take those home and be alert every 24 hours, 7 days, for any problems we have here. And that is not a hypothetical, that happens.
That happens, correct. As you probably see me walking around here about 10 o'clock at night, and I have to work
I have,
here.
Wondering who else in the building, yeah?
Yeah, exactly. So, this service is $20 per iPad, and with this amendment coming in, we are 24-hour service. Me, myself, Jessica, we get calls sometimes late at night about fixing issues. As Kevin knows, I come over to help with the elections to put that stuff online. So, us as the IT department are constantly working. And so the $20 is just to pay for that service, so we have a device that's county owned, only county business gets done on it, and that service can be easily taken care of, so
And that $20 goes directly to the company, not to you.
correct, yes.
Okay, not tax.
At this time, I believe, no one in the IT department, me, Jess, or Nick, receive a stipend for our funds.
And a question, the $80 per month was through the end of this year and it'll be out of your budget next year?
Correct, yes. Basically, the point of the $80 and why it came up is that we have it in the budget, it's just for the policy, because now the policy is amended to require for 24-hour employees, that's where we're trying to get the approval on.
Yeah, there's been times we've had lightning strikes in the middle of the night, and everything shuts down, and here they come, so they know about that.
On the recommendation of the IT department, I move that we pay the $80 per month total for the remainder of this budget year for the use on the prescription or the subscription for the IT pads.
Second?
I'll second.
All in favor? I'm sorry, any questions, comments? Now, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Did you?
I just wanted to clarify, you guys weren't actually going to eliminate this policy, you're just letting him
Well, it's not ready
add it
yet.
to, that's what I'm saying, why I wanted to make sure, because there are people that are currently receiving, and it's an allowance, not a stipend. Stipend's taxable, allowance isn't. But I just wanted to make sure we weren't eliminating, because I know there are people that currently receive the allowance.
Yeah.
We're not getting rid of that, just,
No, this is
right?
all,
We're
this is all just an amended to
just
what's
to
already
allow the
done.
per-
And then
Okay.
it's gonna, well, it's not amended to the current policy, but my understanding, the policy is being completely re-amended.
Right.
Yeah.
So you're just voting on just letting
not
them
voting on the
add
policy.
service to.
No, you're not voting on the policy, just.
Not on the policy,
Just wanna make
just
sure.
on this particular subscription. Okay, any other questions?
Already called for questions.
Okay, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Okay, aye, thank you, Wayne. CARES Act, here we go. Okay, I'm gonna talk about this one. We have, received, we are going to talk about an amended press release on the CARES Act rules, and I've got it, let me see if I can find a better readable copy here for me. This, on the screen, in the green, talks about for costs that excuse me, have been incurred. And for those, you need document of the expense, document of payment, and a list of all expenses. That has to be turned in with your application. Now, in the yellow, it talks about anticipated expenses. And for those, we need the documentation of that expense. And and you can put that on your application. But only, and we would probably approve it, depending on our regional planning commission's recommendation and our auditor's recommendation. But the anticipated expenses will not be released until you get the documentation of that payment. So if a school board says we're gonna have to do something, it'll be next month, we'll get paid. We wanna apply for this money now, great. But we're gonna hold the expenses till you spend it out of your money, and then we refund you. Okay, and I think that pretty well takes care of this, highlighting this. And we appreciate, Amber, loved your comment. It said one more thing down at the bottom. Funds shall not be released to the entity until the expense has been incurred and documentation has been provided. We are spending very carefully the government's money, the taxpayers' money, excuse me. Okay, any questions? That's a report. Now we'll have a resolution. Yes.
The money that was sent to that you got and sent to the RPC, SEMA RPC.
It's not been sent to them. The money
Okay.
hasn't been sent to them. It's in our account.
You guys still have it?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I wasn't understanding. I thought Dan said.
No,
that
they're
you guys
having the
sent it.
paperwork. But
Okay.
Our account has.
Good.
They're just doing some administration.
Got it, so you guys do the final say though, is that correct? Is that?
Yes,
You guys have time,
absolutely.
okay, that's fine, I just wanna make sure we turn it on.
$7,885,240. Yes. Okay, and it's an account, hopefully some interest added onto it.
I hope so.
Okay, any other questions?
I think that does, I guess you don't have to vote on that, but we're gonna put it on the
You
website.
can.
I would move that we amend the press release, treasurer press release.
Second?
And I'd second the motion.
Any questions? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
And again,
Amber.
Commissioners, we want to reiterate that the current press release be removed from the website and a new one posted as soon as possible, so as not to
Does
confuse.
this one cover everything that's on the first press release? That's something to look at.
I think so. I guess the original one went more into the application process, so we may wanna leave that one up. I can do a quick look at it though. This was just kind of, I guess, more of an addendum rather than an amendment. Our original press release said all applications would be for reimbursement purposes only. So this was to let applicants know that they can request anticipated costs as well. So that's why we did this amendment, to allow for that.
And at the same time, we appreciate Commissioner Wallace notifying Southeast Missouri Regional as soon as possible of this.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, now, Patrick has a resolution he wants to discuss.
Yes, Commissioners, I've drafted a resolution. There's this CARES Act awarding act information. It's, there's been a lot of confusion. I've got an ordinance that I'd like to read. St. Francis County Commission, resolution number as prepared by the St. Francis County Commission, supporting the entities in phase 1, 2, and 3 for CARES fund. Whereas county commissioners are tasked with the responsibility of serving the best interests of county residents and managing all aspects of county business not assigned by law to other elected officials. And whereas county commissioners are elected by county residents to serve as a liaison for the county between other local units of government, regional bodies, state and federal agencies. And whereas St. Francis County Commission was awarded $7,885,240 from the federal government to disperse, and whereas St. Francis County Commissioners are experiencing a large amount of confusion on what can or cannot be spent with the funds, and whereas it is the responsibility of the St. Francis County Commission to disperse these funds to entities that have been affected by COVID-19 and in their best judgment to award entities. And whereas at the Southeast Missouri County Commissioners Association meeting on June 24th, 2020, all commissioners in attendance stated that the rules concerning what can and cannot be spent using the CARES funding are very vague and confusing. And whereas St. Francis County Commissioners would like to go on record along with other elected officials that there is a lack of specific guidance on how to spend the money, and whereas St. Francis County Commissioners believe it is their job to disperse the money as they deem necessary and proper, and whereas the St. Francis County Commissioners believe in helping nonprofits and consider money lost net due to lack of having this year's fundraisers while using the previous year's history as evidence of loss will be accepted. And whereas the nonprofits could not host a fundraiser because of the pandemic, and whereas the Coronavirus Relief Fund guidance for state, territorial, local, and tribal governments dated April 22nd, 2020 on pages 3 and 4 states examples of costs that would not be eligible expenditures of payments from the fund. Number 5 states reimbursements to donors for donated items or services. The St. Francis County Commission finds that this prohibition does not apply to fundraising but only to donors, and whereas the nonprofits could not host a fundraiser because of the pandemic, and now therefore be it resolved, the St. Francis County Commissioners believe that is necessary and to the benefit of the county and residents that the disbursements from the Coronavirus Relief Fund as received via the CARES Act from the county to said nonprofits are eligible expenses of said fund. Commissioners, if you will read in the Webster's Dictionary, the definition of a donation is the act or instance of a donating, such as the making of a gift, especially to a charity or public institution, a free contribution. We agree with that statement. We agree with that statement. If you look at the definition of fundraiser, a person employed to raise funds as for an institution or political cause, or number two, a social event such as a cocktail party held for the purpose of raising funds. We agree with that statement. We would like to go on record that these nonprofits, they could not hold a fundraiser due to the pandemic. So this resolution gives us our statements in true fashion, and I would move that we pass this resolution.
Second?
I'd second it.
Okay, fundraiser almost by definition means getting people together, and you can't do that. A donation can be a check written, and that's possible. Also, it's easier to prove the history of fundraisers, and it's not easy to prove the history of donations. So for those reasons, we entirely separate the two items, and we believe that the fundraisers are eligible. There's a problem, the government does not want to put anything in writing. They've told us verbally that yes, go ahead and do that, but they won't send us a note or a letter or an email. We've tried to get that, we just can't get it. Nobody wants to stand up and be a man about the thing. So, any questions?
Or not, these are nonprofits, that's separate than any type of church.
Well, I thought the churches were nonprofit. Maybe they fit
Well,
it.
they are, but I mean, we're entering into everything from St. Joe Festival to the Farmington Chamber of Commerce's, they make $40,000-$50,000 a year on country days. I mean, this could be huge.
We're looking at
I mean,
this to nonprofits right now.
those are
I
both
don't have
nonprofits.
an issue. I've talked to several churches, and the churches that I've talked to, they're not interested. So I don't see a not-for-profit is exactly that, not-for-profit. I don't see why we don't open this up to all not-for-profits.
Only, right, only.
Only, but not true.
Right now, it's only nonprofit then.
Okay, it will come up.
Okay.
So, and as these bills come in, we have some of them reaching very far out, saying, okay, we want 500,000, 600,000, 700,000. If they get theirs approved before the other people, our own county has approval, that's where we're gonna have a difficult time, because you can't prorate it after you've issued the check.
All right. Oh, yes, Louis?
What phase will, you just closed phase one, you're in phase two, at what phase will nonprofits fit in? 2 or 3?
When is
Two.
Phase two.
That's coming up. Okay. Oh, yes, sir?
What kind of documentation will be required to show?
They'll have to show a history, and it's net cost, not the cost for the caterer and all that stuff, it's net
profit.
Net profit. Net profits.
Okay.
It's a net amount, we have that in there.
We may have to get together on that later, because there's very strict guidelines on what is considered required documentation. And most of it is expense related, nothing related to revenue.
Okay, we can work on that. Okay, any other questions? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Thank you, aye. Okay, phase one awards, and there we are, that's what's been requested so far. This does include some anticipated costs, we've talked about that earlier. And those anticipated costs, we, depending on the action today, will approve those. But those anticipated costs will not be paid until documentation is received. So if some school has turned in something about a need in the future, good. When you spend it, let us know and we'll refund it.
A lot of these, let me give you an example, like, the school districts, Chromebooks, sanitation and COVID mitigation efforts. We've got, like the ambulance district, PPE and sanitation equipment, supplies. We've got, St. Francis County Health Center, PPE testing and payroll. And something that I would like to point out is the fact that a lot of these school districts, one in particular in their application, had also distance learning, but they have food delivery to in-need students and the salary and fuel. Well, I noticed a lot in the remaining applications that those school districts did not have that in there. So I reached out on August 10th and spoke with Farmington, Matt Rubel, West County, Kevin Kaufman, Bismarck, Jason Keene, Central, Dr. Ashley McMillan, and reached out to these superintendents and told them that, you need to, there's a caveat in the CARES Act that it talks about this. So I reached out to these superintendents to let them know, hey, you can put in another application and you need to put this in there because this is eligible. And the reason I know this is eligible is my wife is a second grade school teacher. And I can tell you for a fact that she went on these buses delivering food to these elementary school kids. So I'm proud of the fact that we were able to contact these superintendents and hopefully they'll put in for another application.
So I have a question concerning you asking them to resubmit. So do they go to the bottom of the pile or do they go to the top of the pile for phase 2?
I don't have, we're talking about our schools, Louis, so I don't have an issue with them as long as we've got remaining awards. Apply again. We've always been under the impression of that you can't. We've never said you can't apply one time and that's it. We've always been we've always stated to the general public and to these entities, hey, we're not limiting you to one application, so please keep the cost and keep your bills and apply again.
I understand that, but
In my mind, I think I can answer it. It's a new application, ball and stack.
Okay, I see.
Does that answer it?
yeah, because at this point you've handed out 40-something percent, and you haven't started phase 3 yet.
And is City of Farmington any other cities?
We have other applications that we're reviewing, but because of our constant back and forth with SEMO Regional,
Okay.
we're slow in getting them done.
Well, we're talking about this batch now.
That's right.
Okay. Okay.
And this is all that I'm aware that had been received that would have been eligible in phase 1.
In phase 1.
We had other applications that are eligible for phase 2, but they're not up for
And it's
award
still
yet. So this,
between you and Regional Planning Commission is still in process.
Yes.
Okay.
I just want to make sure that we're not sitting here a month from now and we'd like to improve our jail and we have to have some improvements on our heating and cooling, but if we do those things, we will eliminate 14 apps that have come in from loss and fundraising and some other, you see what I'm saying? Are we gonna feel bad and say, well, just because those guys got in first, you see what I'm saying? We said, well, yeah, but we've got $2 million that we're planning on using for our own county needs, so you can't get your fundraising losses or whatever. So I'm just cautious here. We gotta, sometimes if you spend the first part of it and don't have any for the last part of it, we just need to be cautious from that.
Okay. I have a motion second. Any more questions?
well, and I would say, in talk with regional planning, it's our understanding that any unused funds that are awarded will be released back for other applicants to
If they
use.
don't document it.
So
I don't
they
know
get
what
to the
time.
end of their documentation and it comes to find out they got stuff cheaper than they thought and they had $20,000 left over. That goes back into the pot to be released to another.
As soon as you
applicant.
know that it's available.
It will be,
But
right.
if they've got it approved and the last day they haven't spent it, then do we have to wait till the last day to award?
Well, all costs have to be incurred by December 30th, 2020.
Yeah.
So,
So that means we could come down to the last day and have funds we don't know about.
correct.
That
But
would
the
be a
cost just
problem.
has to be incurred by that date. That doesn't mean that's the date that you have to apply or release the
Now,
funds.
you can release up to.
They have to be
April
sent
1st.
back, I think it's April 1st of
Yeah.
2021. So we're gonna need all things to be finalized by probably March 1st. But with that to say, yes, these funds are awarded, but if things change and they don't need the funds or get it something cheaper, they'll be re-released and we can make it aware at the next award that these funds are back available.
All right, but we would like to have it done before the end of the year, so that.
Absolutely,
some
so
of the
somebody else
neighbors-
could use it.
We could do that. Okay, yes?
Mr. Gallagher, may I speak?
Yeah. Now, we've got you on agenda item for the jail, is that okay? Coming up, yes.
I just want to say, I'm Superintendent of North St. Francis County R1. I want to say thank you for considering all the applications and supporting the schools and the cities because it means so very much to us. And you are right, there are huge expenses when you look at Chromebooks and all those pieces, but we appreciate you entertaining these. And
Okay, thank you. Have all of your anticipated expenses been made yet?
They have, so you were referring to us perfectly. We have not purchased our Chromebooks. We're waiting for approval and we'll obviously ask for reimbursement of that, but that was a significant cost that we wanted to make sure we had
Okay,
approval first.
that's good. But if you are approved today.
Yes, yes.
We will award that money, but not, we will award the application, but not hand you the cash until those Chromebooks are bought and that we get the documentation.
Perfect.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, motion, have a motion second. All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye. These are approved and sir, you're gonna get your money.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you. Thank you for coming. Okay, request for qualifications. Now, Jamie, I think this might be you. We're gonna talk about HVAC systems in our jail.
I don't think it is.
Okay. Okay.
This is part of the request, and he can
A
do
part
his
of that, okay,
request
I think I had you on
of
that.
things that but they're seeking requests for qualifications engineering. Brian probably would be there, so I'm stepping in, but we've got some things that we're looking at our HVAC system that would meet the care requirements to upgrade our HVAC systems to more filtration system, and they would like to go out and see what that would cost. And that's what they're
And
talking
some
about.
infrared lighting to help kill any
That's
contamination
correct.
in there.
That's correct. So
Well,
they're
this
trying-
is for an engineer to come in and
Right.
prepare specifications
Yes.
for all this stuff,
The plan.
as well as ultimately oversee the construction project that will be bid out later. But this is just to prepare, get someone to prepare specifications for us to solicit bids.
And that's one of the things I talked about a while ago. If for some reason this goes forward and we hire this, we get this, and we decide it's gonna be $850,000, and then it's gonna be either us or the Sisters of the Poor, the fundraiser that we don't, we're gonna decide whether to do the, I'm just saying we need to plan on the front side and map out a couple of these costs and say, make sure that we're gonna, neither do we want, if we truly have needs, leave the money on the table. But there are things that are in the works, and that's one of the things that I think Jamie wanted to talk about in the report on, and that is the same thing, process on looking at the jail.
Okay, that motion to allow for this request for qualifications.
Move to solicit RFQs.
Okay, second?
I'll second.
Questions? Okay, and Jamie, I'm gonna put you under departmental reports for your talk.
Thank you.
Okay, all in favor, aye?
Aye.
Aye, thank you so much. Now, our next meeting will be next Tuesday at the 25th. At this point, I wanna tell you that I'm not sure about my attendance schedule. My wife has been major injured. I thought for a while I was gonna lose her. I wanna thank these guys for standing in for me. It's been difficult. Sorry. But I may not make that meeting, and it's not forwarding now, but just thank you all for your prayers. And we'll make them. Okay.
We're here for you. We're here for you. We're here for you.
Other business correspondence, this is not forwarding now, so I don't know what's happened.
correspondence? I don't think there is.
Okay, public comments?
Seeing none.
Departmental reports, Jamie, let's put you up.
Okay. James Crump, jail administrator. As part of the CARE Act, we're looking at the expansion of the booking area of the St. Francis County Jail. And what that would entail is building a extra wing on in the intake area of the jail. And what this will do is start a step-down process watching offenders for symptoms of COVID. Gosh, I don't want to jinx myself. But anyway, the Department of Corrections, as everybody's seen, had an increase in COVID. But I want to give...
The prisons.
Yes.
Not the jail.
So I want to give kudos to the Department of Corrections, the way they've handled this. There's like a top 10 list of states that has handled it well. Missouri's on that list. I'm not sure where. But since it's prevalent in the prisons, we get inmates that come in from the prison, and of course off the street, that could have been exposed to this COVID. So what we're wanting to do is take this wing, and it will have negative flow ventilation. So when these inmates come in, waiting court or on civil orders or whatever it is, they'll be in this area under constant observation, so we could watch this to keep it out of our jail. That could cause a lot of issues for us, manpower, as everybody knows from reading the paper. So we're looking at that kind of stuff. If it would get worse and we'd have to lock down the jail, you know, we're looking at expanding food storage in that area. Just anything we can to, you know, keep COVID out of the jail. And I just wanted to bring that up. Well, and you guys had mentioned it to everybody, so I want to thank you, so we picked up on that. Okay?
Thank you. That's a report. With any questions?
I've got a brief report.
So,
I've got the report if you have.
go ahead.
All right, I want to give a quick report on the August election because we missed the meeting afterwards. We had over 12,000 people vote, 36% turnout, which is a very large turnout. I want to thank the IT people who brought this up. We had it done, and on our website, where most of the counties around us had reported on 2 or 3 of their precincts. They did a great job. All of our people, Linda lining up all of our poll workers. Our poll workers at the polls did a great job with their COBA cleaning and making sure everybody's taken care of. All of them, this is the first time they all had their paychecks sent out the week of working, because we got them all confirmed and electronically deposited for more than half of them that week. We need more poll workers. We're going to need more poll workers in November. We did a super job, but I think that we're still going to have to deal with the COBA. It's about 75 days away. And so therefore, I look back 4 years ago, 60-something% of the people voted. So twice as many people, and it was crowded in August. So we're going to do a couple things. So if you have 30 people waiting with our 6-foot limit, you're 180 foot out in the street in November if it's raining. We're trying to eliminate that, or at least reduce it. And so we're going to emphasize voting at our office again. We had 970 people do that in the primary. We'd like to have 2,000 people. So the 2 weeks prior, we will have a full precinct. And for clarification, you see a lot of people. There's a lot of difference between mail-in balloting, sending out that where you send ballots to every registered voter. If you remember last year, I told you we had over 600 people that hadn't voted in years and have never been taken off. We took those people off. But we have absentee requests, which is perfectly legal, which we've done for years, and we've got absentee voting in person. So as of September 22nd, we will be voting at the Weber Street location, and the last 2.5 weeks, we will have a precinct set up there with all the poll workers to try to divert 2,000 to 2,500 people there, which will take about 100 per precinct out of the precincts. So we're going to encourage as many people, especially if you're high risk, to vote there, and that way our precincts won't be covered up with people and people out the door. And so if the people would help get that word out, that everybody here, everybody in the courthouse, we had a lot of the people in the courthouse, if they could early vote there, it would be very helpful in bringing it down. We ID everybody, it's very safe, it's very efficient, and it's very secure. So if we could do that, that's one advantage of having it over Weber now, is we have that big room available, and we will try to, but August couldn't have been better. We recognize this, people haven't voted in this election in 4 years, this type of election where you had a 60% turnout. So it's gonna be a big turnout. And the other thing that happens is you have about 25% of the people that only vote once every 4 years. And the way everybody moves, that means a lot of people are gonna be requesting address changes. We've asked them to get it on election day, which is a huge pain. And if they voted from outside, if they moved from outside the county, they cannot be changed in our system. So I'd encourage people that have moved to get that change done over our office right now. We can get a new voter card out right now. But that will delay at the polls if people come in and haven't voted in 4 years and they've moved twice and they haven't changed their card. That just slows the process down. So that's kind of a report on where we're at on this.
Question, how far away from the polling door do you have to be?
25 foot.
25 feet.
Yeah, which
Okay,
is-
you got 180 foot line. So the last 3/4 of the line.
They
you
can be
can't
sitting
do.
there in a badger if they want. We've already talked about that. If they want, because they are perfectly, even though they're in line, they are not inside the door. Last, final thing, and this is the reason I said that you don't have much choice but to have a meeting next week. We have to do our public hearing for our rate, which we will be rolling back slightly to .0501 because of our increase in sales
It's a
tax.
6 something now, isn't it?
No, it was about 5.27, I believe, last year's was. It was a 6 just a couple of years ago. We've rolled it back twice, pretty big chunks in the last 2 years. We will be having a hearing.
Now the approved amount is 31 cents.
Correct. We're
down to a nickel now.
Yeah, we are so far down.
Yeah,
you know,
because
we're-
of sales tax.
That's right. So we have to have that public hearing immediately prior to you gaveling in next week. So I've scheduled it at 10 o'clock. We haven't had very many people participate in the past. We will have the public hearing and immediately go into your commission session if that's okay.
Okay, now I am getting it. Okay, that's what I'm trying to get, sales tax. I made a mistake again. I told you that was gonna decrease. My mistake was I forgot about the
Keep saying it.
What?
Keep saying that.
Oh, yeah. I forgot about how dynamic this county is. And people are coming here to buy their stuff and they can't go to the other counties around us because they're, first of all, we have the big box stores and all that. There it is. And that's $500,000 that we didn't have last year, and last year was a good year. So this will be in a future rollback. It'll come down, bring down our property taxes even more because of the old Hancock Amendment that you can't raise your profits on something like this. So raise your total income. So that's a good report. We're happy about that. Any questions? Motion to close this meeting, go into closed session.
Closed session under Article 610.021 subsection 1.
And I'd second the motion.
Okay, all in favor, aye? Okay, we'll take a few minutes of quiet